Hi, my name's Jason Rinker. I'm the project director for the What Works project, and this is the What Works podcast. And this is my co-host.
Hi, my name's David Owens. I'm the residential trainer. Let's talk about what works.
Well, this is our first episode, I suppose you could say. And so what better place to start than introductions, who you are, and like what, kind of what brought you to the work.
Yeah. My background's in law enforcement, specifically probation and foster care. I've been an administrator of STRTP facilities for several years. And I don't know, I just love working with kids. When I got introduced to this, and I haven't shared this story with you, it was actually very interesting. It's at Cal State Long Beach. We got the upper division classes. We had a professor named Amin Ra, who he considered himself a very liberal grader. And so one of the responsibilities he gave to his students was we needed to give him a commitment of every Saturday going down to Compton College and committing to a reading program with Compton Unified School District. So we got to teach and help support and mentor these kids and really teaching some of them how to read. And that's when I got introduced to, our underserved kids and a population that I would have been over there without the program. I just didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And from there, got started with probation, where I saw some of my skills that I did have to be successful at that job were there, but there was something else calling me. And I didn't know it was going to be residential treatment. But when I started over at Olive Crest, I just fell in love with the job, and I loved it.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah.
Years later.
Yeah. My name is Jason Rinker, and I've been in the field since 2007, worked in a number of positions as well, and, frontline, direct care staff, group supervisor, training manager, QA, all that kind of stuff. Training is what I found I loved the most, because I really wanted to make this difficult job easier where it could be, but kind of, accepting that there's always a component of difficulty, of struggle with this job. So like making it more sustainable and more effective. And so like, you shared an example of kind of that first awareness of this population and your enjoyment working with them. Like if you look back, like were there other things that kind of pulled you toward residential treatment?
I think some of it I didn't really have a choice in. My family's from Haiti. My grandfather and my grandmother started an organization back in 1942. And they had over 300 churches and orphanages. And all of that was mostly catered to the youth and their education and helping people, either if they had aspirations to go to college in the United States, helping them do that. But really just taking care of the kids and the education. And so growing up and spending time out there, that's all I saw. And that was part of the family business. It was also part of just the culture growing up there. And I don't know if I was surprised it came second nature, or when it came second nature, I had an aha moment. So that's really kind of what it is for me. And it just kind of feels like it's part of my DNA.
Yeah, that's cool. When you were talking, I remembered that, I would volunteer while my parents were teaching Bible school to take care of the younger kids during the services. And so, I think and that was when I was in junior high. So early on, there was the kind of enjoyment of working with kids. But that is a very different thing than working with kids who are in residential. Were there things that pulled you or kind of maybe prepared you for working with kids in residential, if that's something that can be done?
I don't know. I don't know if it's just a Gen X thing sometimes, growing up with thick skin and being used to, being put in different situations, and I wouldn't say that you didn't know or you didn't recognize it, but it was normal. So that, I don't know if being in some of those higher stress situations, I tend to, things slow down for me, and it was just
Yeah.
kind of easy. And I
Yeah.
think sports also prepared me too a little bit, dealing with pressures and stuff
Right.
like that.
Right.
But I'm not sure if there's anything in particular. I just know that once I got it there, it was like, I wouldn't even say my first pair of Air Jordans because those were horrible. But the first pair of great dress shoes you buy when you're an adult that feel good, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fit.
Yeah, the fit.
Yeah.
A good pair of Ferragamos. Yeah, I go with
Nice.
Ferragamos.
Nice. There you go. I mean, it's funny because we very different things that kind of
Right.
brought us into the field and prepared us for the field. I think I love people. I'm curious. I'm interested in just about anything, and so like I don't think that there was much about my upbringing that prepared me for the like stress and the intensity of residential. I think it was if anything the normalcy of my early life was a challenge when I came into residential, but it was just my interest in people and their stories and their experiences. That's what kind of carried me through. I've had very different upbringing than a lot of the kids in residential. And so it wasn't like I could come in and rely on a shared understanding.
Yeah.
But it was a genuine desire to understand that I think was communicated that bridged any gaps that were there, both in terms of skill, but also in terms of relationship.
Right.
I think it was like maybe a pattern of realizing, I don't know if I could say I was built for this or made for this, but, I was dedicated to it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what has allowed me to remain in the field is the dedication, because I've changed and I've been changed, but I've been glad to find my way along the way. And I think that's kind of what brought me to the field was a desire to understand people and myself.
Right.
And this field is more than prepared and provided opportunity to do so.
Right. I think you're also a testament to a lot of people that say, well, I don't have anything in common with the kids. But what is your desires to learn about the kids? Because if you don't feel like you bring anything to the table and you're not at least inquisitive about the youth, it will be difficult, Yeah. So I think, you're a testament to that. It doesn't matter where you come from. What is it you're looking to not only bring to the table, but the table also has something there for you too.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool to hear.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're right that I couldn't come to the table and say, listen to me, I'm an authority on your life.
Yeah, that doesn't usually work.
Yeah. Well, and I was saved from the attempt to trying it.
Yeah.
Right. Like that was never something I could have relied on.
Yeah.
And so all I could do was just be genuinely curious about them and their experiences.
Right.
And so in some ways that weakness was a strength,
because
I couldn't rely on something that people assume will often help.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does, but telling somebody you understand them is rarely the right thing to say, and rarely is it true.
It's usually triggering more often than not.
Yeah. And so that genuine curiosity is certainly well. Yeah. I think there are those opportunities in this field to like realize what we do well, right? And has there been something that you realize you like bring to the team when you're present?
I always used to say I had the gift of gab, and sometimes I didn't, but at the same time, it was almost like I wanted to convince myself. But I think building a rapport with the kids, and it's so easy to do, either with, pop culture, music, things of that nature. the kids love to tear you apart about your playlist, you know, and that's usually the first one that is in an introduction. If you hear them listening to something,
Right.
it's so easy to come in and just start a conversation about something they like,
Yeah.
you know, and they'll tell you all day about, you know, anybody that's out. I mean, that they like right now at the moment. You just have to listen, you know, and I think that's probably the easiest part for me is showing interest. And with this population, music, most people, I don't know any one person that says, I don't like music. And I think I was blessed to grow up at a time where every genre was listened to, you know, and my playlist, it's expansive, everything from Fishbone to The Loneliest Monk, you know. So I like it all, and there's always something that you can find if you're looking, you know, to create that rapport.
I mean, it sounds like that ability to relate to people, and like meet them where they're at.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think for me, you know, not to be silly about it, but like I was always ready to help people with homework, right? Like, you know, my life has been made easier by an ability and an interest in figuring things out, right? And again, to lean into what I was saying earlier, like nothing about my early childhood or childhood at all necessarily prepared me to help these kids solve the challenges that they faced, right? And to, again, presume that I could isn't the way to go. But what I can 100% say is that I'm dedicated to figuring it out, right? And so I think it made it easier for me to, you know, be an ally, be a collaborator, be an accomplice in like figuring out how to help them help themselves.
Right.
So again, it kind of diffused that power dynamic where I, you know, was ideally an authority on a subject, or I was an authority on how to figure out how to fix something or do something or try something. But I didn't come across as somebody who was interested in or could tell them what to do.
It's actually kind of a relief because it takes the pressure off of thinking that you actually have that much of an impact or control over that situation. You know, when you get to work with the kiddo and they see your intentions, oh, wow, he really does want to help me. Okay, well, now you're getting some buy-in finally.
Right.
You know, that I think that's a key part when they realize that it's not something you're trying to force them to do, but you're trying to assist and, you know, guide and, you know, they get all, you know, the recognition for it, and as they should. It's their life. Yeah.
I think like, especially in those times of like complex or high emotion moments, there are obviously the responsibilities that we as residential treatment counselors or direct care staff or the various terms in the field have in keeping them safe. But often the kind of the more directive we are, the harder we push, the more reactive it understandably can make them. So like, what have you found that has helped you navigate those kind of like complex, high stress situations?
I think a lot of it is kind of falling back to some of the things that we first pick up as far as senses. And I didn't realize this was happening until after you've been doing it enough times. You can walk into a facility and it cannot even be yours, but the sounds, the smells, the things that are happening, the voices, the volumes, they tell you exactly the pulse of what's going on in that facility. And I think being around enough and seeing enough and being involved in enough different situations, you really get a feel for what's going on. And then that's the part I kind of like, you know, to be able to come in and help out, because sometimes the staff can't see it coming. And you pouring some stuff out. Really? He's already going down the back side of the house and he's going AWOL. He's gone, you know. So there's certain things that you pick up along the way, and hopefully you have an opportunity to teach your staff how to use some of those skills too. So
I mean, it's definitely scary sometimes when you walk onto the floor and it's quiet.
Yes.
Like, is it good quiet or everybody ran out of the building quiet?
Yeah. Now you got a different list of things you got to check out.
Right,
You know?
right. Yeah. And I think like for me in those situations, I was always totally okay and interested in when those individual kids were in crisis, just sitting in it with them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not scared of the bad or the sad or the scary feelings. And I'm totally okay just like processing them,
Yeah.
right? Or
Yeah.
just sitting there with them.
Yeah.
And I think that served me well because it wasn't, there wasn't pressure to resolve it or to suddenly be okay or fake being okay. It was hopefully received as, you know, just their companionship support.
Yeah.
You know, and again, a collaborator and trying to figure out how to take that next step towards feeling better.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think that's the role I found myself kind of naturally falling into on a team is, you know, if you've got a kid who's got a real hard time, like, you know, let me go there and support them. What role did you find that you naturally kind of found yourself into?
I think for me, it was more or less quarterbacking, like the crisis per se. I'm big on preparation and really finding out what needs to happen that day and knowing the appointments. And when you have all of that and you've already checked in with the staff, you know that maybe something's going to possibly be triggering because the kid has anger management and they have a dentist appointment. So 2 appointments in one day is a bad day for him. We've got to prepare for that. So a lot of that stuff right there and knowing your kids is preparation and knowing your kids crucial. I think that's what I've always brought. And sometimes, you know, the staff will say, why you have to do all that? Why all the information? Because we're going to need it, you know, and maybe you don't need it today, but the next day it's going to come in handy. Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, knowing the kids, building enough of a relationship that, you know, you can understand, all right, well, you know, so-and-so just had conflict with that person. We need to make sure they're separated. We can put them in different groups. Like, let's make sure their activities don't overlap.
Right.
Those are kind of the you know, nuances and skills within that direct care role. And sometimes it's got to be quarterbacked. You got to plan for those things.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Kind of more specific to this project, like what brought you to this project? And maybe it'd be helpful to kind of speak a little bit on what this project is.
Yeah.
So this you know, we're calling this the What Works Project, and it's funded by a grant through the Department of Social Services, ultimately to improve treatment outcomes, which will result in, you know, less law enforcement involvement, better availability of those law enforcement resources to the community, which, you know, again, will reduce detention times and frequencies and improve educational attainment and job attainment. This is really just about like, how do we improve treatment so that all the things that we want for our kids and our communities and our agencies and our staff is more within reach. And so what kind of, you know, brought you to be interested in that and come on board the team?
I think I found really great joy in training and equipping my staff. When you get, it's funny because I remember realizing how new staff, and some of them, they don't have kids, some of them don't have little brothers, and parenting styles differ, you know, so teaching them and training them and equipping them to be a child care worker, it was more like raising another set of kids. And I love the fact of being able to coach and train and showing somebody how to do something efficiently. And also using and finding their strengths so that they can use them. That was probably the most impactful part, is some of them didn't know that they even had some strengths working with kids or just working in general. And I think that's that part, and to be able to do it on a bigger scale and share some of the experience with other staff out there, that was the thing, because I was already doing it at my current you know, facilities and being able to retain staff was crucial for us to be able to have some consistency in care. And I found once my staff understood exactly what was needed of them, and then also we were providing the training and being able to show them ways to handle these situations, they were successful. And guess what? They came back. They stayed longer. They developed really great relationships with these kids and outside agencies. And it wasn't perfect, but we were having some success.
Yeah.
And that's the part that was exciting for me. And to be able to do it here on this project and share this information, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but like, you know, I came into this job with a whole lot of goodwill and not a whole lot of skill as to how to be a good residential counselor. You know, and there came a point where that goodwill only carried me so far. Right. And training and learning about trauma-informed care and, you know, like understanding how to be an effective treatment counselor and the preparation and the supervision and all the kind of skills that go into that. I had to learn those. And so, you know, it was a rough ride, and I want to make sure that, you know, one, that this job brings in good people, well-intentioned people, good-meaning people, and we got to do a better job of equipping them. One, as individuals, as people. Two, because we owe these kids, these youth in our care, the best treatment that can be delivered.
Absolutely.
And we're beginning to understand what that looks like. And lo and behold, it's also the thing that makes it more sustainable for staff to stick around and do a better job too.
Well, go figure.
Right. And so for me, that's what's so exciting about this is we get the opportunity to provide that sort of support to, you know, anybody at a group home across the state, STRTP, a temporary shelter care facility for free. And we stand the chance to, you know, help a lot more people stay in the job, stay in the field, and improve treatment for all the kids that are in treatment now, and potentially at those agencies that are able to make some of the shifts to improve the treatment for everybody that goes through those facilities going forward. So, you know, for me, the scope of potential impact is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
and you know, that was something that I couldn't pass up. I think like what problems, what challenges felt familiar in terms of like equipping, you know, like working with the kids, the challenges they faced, and what were new. Because again, I came into this field with, you know, a good foundation, a good stable household, but not one that taught me how to deal with conflict, because there really wasn't a lot of conflict. There weren't a whole lot of real difficult challenges that I faced growing up. And these kids come in with the opposite experience sometimes. So what for you was familiar and what was new?
I'd say as far as familiar was really just the kids in itself and establishing trust. The kids will look you up and down and they'll talk about your shoes, they'll talk about your hair, but they just want to see, you know, whether or not you've got some thick skin and you can handle it, because they, you know, they probably actually like you, but they want to let on. That part right there was it's still the same, you know, and watching establishing trust with people, you know, you got to be around enough to establish a trust.
Right.
As far as things that look a little bit different, now are we talking about in the project sense?
No, we'll get to that next.
Okay. I think the things that look different was maybe more perceptions of STRTP, of group homes, of the kids, of the staff that have, you know, that are really, we're taking care of these are the county's kids. These are the state's kids. These are our children.
Yeah.
Just because the facility might be in a city that they don't necessarily live in doesn't mean it's not their community. It's their community too. Yeah. You know, and I think sometimes that's the part that a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their head around that, these are our kids.
Yeah.
And I think it's a way for us to help them understand a little bit more that they are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it was, again, we had very different experiences, but
Yeah.
a similar sort of like thing that was new, right? The thing that was new for me was, coming from the privilege, the easy background that I did, I didn't know about group homes. I didn't know about anything outside the bubble that I grew up in. And I think one of the best things that came out of my time in residential was the ability to see just people as people.
Yeah.
Like their experiences are a part of their story, but they're not all of their story. And they don't define who they are. And so like truly getting to know these kids as these individual children that we have the honor and the privilege to take care of. Not a group home kid, right? Not a kid who's, they're difficult or they're challenging or they're disrespectful or whatever. They're a kid who's been through a lot, and it's our gift and privilege to be there alongside of that, right? And to do our best to show them they're not alone in it, and help them uncover their path through it.
Right.
I think that was new. In like it's much harder to see them as just a stereotype. You see them as an individual, and that makes a world of difference to us. But I think it also makes a world of difference to them.
Yeah.
And I think, in my role as project director for, this grant, like that's something that I want to make sure we contribute in all of the stuff that we're doing is helping these kids feel seen as somebody who's been through things that would cause anybody trouble, right? And that they're having normal responses to abnormal circumstances, and that it's our again role, our privilege to come alongside them and help them find better ways to solve the challenges that they faced, and that they still face. And that, I think when you're in residential, it's so hard not to get sucked into the day-to-day fight or flight, like, just trying to make it through. And that we have an opportunity here on this project to take some steps back from the front line of direct care and help sort of set strategy for how we can improve treatment, and how we can support them in improving treatment at their individual agencies. And that's what's got me really excited about this project. That being said, like if you woke up tomorrow and you were still kind of in administration of a program, like, or just kind of across multiple agencies, like what would that like perfect residential treatment program look like?
I think for me, the first thing I think about is staff and their perspective. When they know that they've got the tools to do their job, they've been trained to handle these situations. Now all they got to do is make sure they've got the ratio. So they've got the ratio there. You're going to see a totally different approach to how they tackle their day. I think they're going to see more staff owning their shift and really taking responsibility for everything that happens at that time. The preparation of it, the schedule of the day. You're going to see more, I like to call them touches, but more, I think that's the wrong phrase to use, but I think the more contacts that they're making, purposeful contacts with the kiddo. Maybe you get on shift at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and the kid's there. Maybe he declined school. You spend 10 minutes with the kid. Maybe you get your steps in for the day and he gets to go out and get some sun with you, and you guys are just walking and talking. Some of those little things like that are a great deposit in the credibility bank. And the kid knows he had a bad day, but staff's here checking in with me. Things are going to be all right. I've got my CFT later. I'm really not looking forward to it. But you know what? That guy David's here, and maybe we'll play dominoes a little bit later. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing those check-ins and just talking with the kids and letting them know that you're there and we're going to get through the day together, very difficult. That's what I'd like to see more of, is the staff being able to make those check-ins, and the kids, not that the day goes smoothly, but they really do understand that staff's there to support them, help them get them through the day.
Yeah.
And when staff knows that they have the ability to do that, and I think it's more of a habit of checking in and making sure that they're supporting the kiddos, they're going to have very productive and successful days as well as staff.
Yeah. It sounds like you're saying, in this perfect program, I love that there's an understanding that doesn't mean there is no difficult days. It doesn't mean there isn't any crisis. It means that the kids know maybe they had a bad day, but they're not a bad kid.
Right.
And that's the pinnacle of what residential treatment looks like, is, a bad day doesn't mean you're bad. It means you had a bad day, and it doesn't mean I change how I interact with you. Right. It means I change how I support you, because maybe you need different support.
Right.
Like, you didn't go to school. Let's take a walk. Let's see how you're doing.
Yeah.
But that it doesn't change the relationship.
Right. Exactly. Because maybe even that example right there. Well, you still had homework that was assigned today. Mm-hmm. Can we hit that real quick when we come back and tackle that? And,
Or you've got a test tomorrow, so let's study for that.
Let's study for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just getting them back on track and refocusing. Because if sometimes they feel they're off the rails, they're going to wait until they're completely off the rails. But it's
right.
We can get right back on board. It's all right.
It can start that spiral of doom. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so a program that intentionally doesn't allow that to happen, because it encourages them to stick with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways it's similar, like I was a little perhaps like artsy fartsy with my description of it, but like, that we collectively seek and rise to challenges that make us better. That it's almost like an adventure camp program where, the scary, but yes, like exciting challenges that we might face we're all with each other in trying to like run at those things. Right. And I think unfortunately sometimes it feels like we try to do treatment to the clients, right? We try and force treatment upon them. And I think, your vision perfectly captures what happens when there are inevitable difficulties. Because again, perfection is, a perfect treatment program isn't one that is absent challenging behaviors. It's one that knows how to effectively deal with those.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What would feel different in like the building, in meetings, and you already addressed it, but like during hard moments?
I think there's going to be, I want to go with respect, but I think when everybody understands that we're trying to all get to the same solution, the problem solving and sharing of ideas, there's going to be more respectful and better conversations. So I think you're going to have better conversations among staff of getting to an outcome and a result that is way more collaborative. People are going to be able to be heard. Some staff feel that they're not heard.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to be able to come to those, those outcomes that are, supportive and trauma informed, and they're getting the kid to the next step and maybe through something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, like it can sometimes feel like we as staff and them as the kids are on like opposing teams.
Yeah.
Right. We're playing the same sport, but we're like, we're against each other.
Yeah.
Right. As opposed to all of us together on one team, and those challenges, that's the other team.
Right.
Or it doesn't necessarily have to be a team sport, but like, collectively
Yeah.
as a team, we're trying to accomplish something.
Right.
But sometimes it feels like that's the opposite. And so for me,
Right.
like a perfect program would feel like it's a collaborative competition against something that is not within that team.
True.
Right.
True.
What do you think it would feel like, or what do you think that the youth would notice first within this kind of like perfect program?
I think that they would notice not so much more attentive staff, but specifically attentive. Like that you if we have a kiddo that's maybe on formal probation and they've got anger management that they need to go to, maybe they've got an outpatient drug treatment, you're going to see staff more encouraging about why this isn't a benefit for them.
Yeah.
Yes, it's your terms of probation, but we're also talking about you living a healthy life. Like
Right.
you have your family that's waiting for you, things of that nature, and they want to see the most healthy, version of you that they can be around. And showing them what's in a benefit for them, or they start to understand what the benefit is for them. Because I think sometimes they don't understand the benefit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and that's just human nature, we would do that more.
Sure.
So I think that's what I would see: confidence and in staff, and that they will be there. Because sometimes if it's done once, you'll tend to see them. Well, I'm only going to go if Susie Q is here. Why only Susie Q? Because when Tommy comes, he gives me a hard time. We want to make sure that there's that consistency, and when they see it, I think we'll get more buy-in.
Yeah. To kind of to double down on what you were saying, like, what I had thought was like they wouldn't feel alone, and that the problems that they face don't feel impossible anymore.
Yes.
Right. And I think that when certain staff are around who have, who do this well, who have mastered that, like it makes every challenge they face that much more accomplishable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That much more within reach. And I think that, envisioning, kind of thinking about those people that I've worked with, one of the characteristics is that like they never gave up.
Yeah.
Right. And I think for me, it would be awesome to see a program where, the kids pick that up too. The kids don't give up.
Yeah.
And that I guess like, how would these kids like talk about their future, right? If things were different,
Yeah.
Because they don't always talk about the future, and the unfortunate truth of that is that they don't think about the future, or the future they think about may not last all that long, right?
Yeah.
And so for us to carry that hope for them until they can learn to carry it themselves, I think is like that to me is a measure of a great program.
Yeah. And I think also with them experiencing more wins,
Yep.
that's huge for them.
Yeah.
I think they go so much time in between wins that you kind of forget, and it's hard to create a little momentum.
So I think for that, like a youth in this ideal program would be able to recognize their own small wins.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Which again means that the staff would need to as well. Right. And it can be difficult because we want so much for these kids, and we recognize sometimes how far they have to go in terms of being equipped to deal with this difficult world, that we want faster progress than is possible or reasonable, and it causes us to overlook those small wins. So I think a good program would help these kids celebrate their own small victories.
Yeah.
I think we'd also see like some of those behaviors, those normal behaviors to kind of responding to abnormal challenges. We'd start to see those kind of go away.
Yeah.
Because the more effective ways of dealing with those would be their now dominant ways of dealing with the challenges if they come up again.
Yeah.
What do you think staff would notice about like their own stress, confidence, like clarity of purpose and like treatment?
I think staff would definitely see stress levels decrease. Whenever you're prepared for the day, you know exactly what the schedule is. You know exactly how you're going to handle a situation. Maybe you've already even game planned it with your coworker. If things run so much more smoother.
Yeah.
And I think the kids respond to that in kind when they know that there's already a plan. They kind of go with it because if they don't like the uncertainty, but if there's some certainty there and you've already got a plan, I think you're going to get more buy-in. So definitely stress levels decrease, a lot of more confidence when they see the results and the outcomes of the youth that they are getting and that we told them they would be able to get. And now it reinforces also that behavior with the staff, and we're going to see that behavior duplicated again, and even more so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that like staff confidence. And, sometimes it's confidence that when or if, right, that first plan doesn't work, you'll still figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that an absence of confidence in that staff, even if they do have well-laid plans,
Right.
that's what causes it to go off the rails in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. Our kids are cued to, they're trained to their life experience has required them to pick up on when things may not be safe. And oftentimes a lack of confidence communicates a lack of safety.
Yeah.
And so I think, staff would feel more confident. They would feel more clear. They would have plans, but also the ability to be like, all right, we can adapt. We can move with whatever. We can be agile with whatever we need to kind of change it up to get through the end of that shift.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
To do good treatment. I think a fun little component there is that the less stressed staff are, the more clarity they're going to have, right? And it starts to become this sort of like self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
The more a baseline you are, the more creative you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the kids need us to be there, right? Because when they're not a baseline, they're not going to be the ones that are able to be creative to come up with ways to solve the problem any different than they have in the past.
Yeah.
What do you feel like decision-making would be like on shift for staff?
I think, again, I like to go back to the preparation, but the decision making should be a whole lot easier if you understand what the goal in mind is. And you've usually already, again, spoken with your coworker, and hopefully you're just revisiting what needs to be done or what you're getting ready to do with the kiddo. Because if the staff was working last night, already talked to them, they already have it already in their mind that, oh, this is what we got to do tomorrow. They've been reminded of what the appointments they have. Maybe they've got to post it on the back of their door and they get to see it. I think the preparation, I still fall back to the preparation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, knowing what motivates them.
Yes.
So that you can understand like where their goals are, what they're passionate about. Trying to impose motivation doesn't really work.
Yeah, it's pretty fleeting, and it's for a short period of time.
Right. This is one of the goals of residential, but like imposing discipline upon others doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Inspiring self-discipline, inspiring, somebody to choose to take those actions that are, best for them. Like we talked about earlier, explaining that it all builds upon each other. I think decision-making is less about how do I make the shift work and more about how do I help the kids pursue their goals. And they're going to be so busy pursuing what is important to them and what is good for them. We got to work on making sure those things align, but that they're going to be too busy to get themselves into trouble. Right? They're going to be too busy doing the things that work for them that they're not going to have time for the things that maybe work for them, but also got some natural consequences to them.
Right.
What do you think staff would be doing, or like, what would be they be spending more time doing and less time doing in this sort of perfect program? How would staff be spending their time?
I think that again, so now maybe they're already experiencing a few small wins. There's more reminding of the good stuff that they already did. You know, I grew up constantly reminding myself. So as a kid, maybe if you're successful in a sport, soccer was my first one. I love looking at my trophies. I was like, I was okay. Taking that same attitude with the kids and reminding them of some of their successes already. Maybe it's a picture of something that they did. The certificates are awesome for the kids. They love that. But they'll be doing more time reminding them of what happened when they actually did this. This is what happened. You remember how you felt then? And I think the less time dealing with a lot of those negative attitudes. I think you're going to, if you focus on the negative and you worry about that rather than, hey, dude, you show them the picture. You killed it here. You know, what did we do? Let's get back on track. Let's talk about that. And also what's next for them. Because if they've already checked it off their list, we have to know what's next for them.
Right.
And I think sometimes we get focused on the destination rather than that journey of what success is in the action. It's not just at the destination.
Yeah.
So I think staff would get more of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think like staff would be spending more time clarifying, you know, what that kid wants, supporting identification of where they've been successful or what they're good at, and less time having to correct or kind of corral behaviors that are more unsafe, right? So it's more in guiding, more in mentoring, less in correcting, right? Yes, there's going to be times where like we need to call out when a behavior is unsafe, right? But the more you're calling out behaviors that work well for them, that are safe, you don't need to correct the ones that are unsafe because they're just going to be doing more of those.
Do more of those.
Now, I mean, when you're learning to bowl, for example, you might have the bumpers up, especially in the beginning. You got to kind of, you know, ensure that they're spending more time learning how to keep it within those bounds.
The bumpers.
Right. Eventually you can take them away, but in the beginning, they're a necessary part, right? It is discouraging, right, to gutter ball all the time. And so putting those bumpers up, right, and ensuring the behavior is safe, and promoting how to effectively get a strike, we want to be doing both. But I think in a program that's doing really well, you see more and more support of getting a strike or, you know, kind of adaptive behaviors, and less having to call out, you know, behaviors that are unsafe, correct them. Yeah. How do you think that the community would experience a program like ours if it's doing perfectly? There are challenges with group homes in the community, right? There's often an increased police kind of presence. There are increased, you know, kind of runaways in the community sometimes. And what do you think in a, like, again, perfect program, what would the community, how would the community experience that program differently?
I think there'd be more support. You'd see maybe even more conversations with staff. You know, you see, I know my experience always catching neighbors walking, going there either in the mornings or in the evenings, and they always check in, say hi, how are things going, how the boys doing, how's this? And I think you just see more support with them seeing and understanding that these are our kids, they've got some goals and they're trying to do it, you know, and if those kids win, the community wins. And I think once they understand that, they become cheerleaders almost naturally of the program. I
like that. What was that again? It was when they win, the community wins? Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think like understanding the role of community and helping these kids be happy, healthy, you know, like productive members of society. The community has to have a role in that, right? Because they're going to be a member of the community. And so understanding how to be an effective member of a community does require learning how to be a member of that community. We can't raise these kids away from everyone and then expect them to understand how to be a part of others, right? Be around others. And so, you know, we have one role in helping them learn how to make safe, better choices, but they don't magically become a good community member having been raised apart from community.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that
Yeah,
way.
it
And so
doesn't work.
I think you're right that community in a program that is working understands they are a part of that kid's treatment, obviously in a very different way than the direct care staff
Yeah.
in that agency, but that we all have a vested interest in these kids.
Yes.
And then like the way that those interactions are changed because of that, I think would be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think success would look like from the outside looking in? Like, how would the community look upon these kids and recognize their success?
Well, the way I see it is, I think sadly, most of the time, if they see a program as successful, there's no law enforcement presence, which is not necessarily true.
Right.
I think seeing some of their graduation from high school, some of the regular milestones that our kids attain.
Yeah.
Maybe it's middle school, you're getting ready to go into high school, you're a brand new incoming freshman. That's a huge deal,
Yeah.
you know? Something to be celebrated, something to keep an eye on. It's just a word of encouragement. You know, it's a favorite movie of mine, but it's this is something probably edit out, but it's really for kind of us two right here. But in Matthew McConaughey, what was it? It took place in Texas. Anyway,
Yeah.
the returning quarterback for the high school.
Well, Friday Night Lights or something? I don't know. I don't
No,
watch sports
it took
movies.
place in Texas. It was in the 70s, 1976.
Yeah.
And I'm drawing,
Yeah.
and it's one of my favorite movies. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on. But they're at a local Little League baseball game. And one of the elder members of the community is walking out and sees the returning quarterback who was a junior. He said, and the first thing he said, "Hey, we're going to have him next year. We got 15 returning lettermen." The community's invested.
Yeah.
You know, they show up to support them at their games.
Yeah.
So I think once they see that and they see that the kid could have a recital as well, he might be playing on this Little League team. When you get that kind of buy-in and support from the community, I think it's huge. For somebody just to see a random kid out there and say, "Hey, good job this year. We're going to get him."
Right.
People are watching. People support you.
Yeah.
And I think when they hear those cheers, and it's not just from the people that were at their IEP meeting, I think it's a huge deposit. And they realize that people are also invested in them that have nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
They just want to see them win.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Yeah. I think for me, like, it wasn't kind of what I thought of previously, but you mentioned sometimes, just the kids being invisible, that's what, like, we assume that's a measure of success. And I think, success for me from a program would look like, do you use an analogy or a story, like, they come in lost, like they don't know where they're at,
Yeah.
and they leave not necessarily with a map to what their destiny is, but knowing how to read a map.
Yes.
We're preparing them for future success, whatever may come.
Whatever it may be.
Like wherever they may find themselves, they know how to navigate. Because I think we sometimes take too short of a look at what success looks like, and we can define success as, the kids were quiet, or the kids aren't creating any problems for the community, which may not be a measure of them processing, which may not be a measure of them feeling safe enough to let it all kind of out. But that I think in a program that is really, truly working well, we are looking for that kid's future success to be the measure of our success.
Yeah.
And we're invested in that as an agency and as a community, right?
Yes.
That they're accepted as a member of the community and supported as one.
Yeah.
So, like, what takes us? We've painted this beautiful picture of a perfect program. What takes us closer to that? Like, what is one step closer to what that program looks like? if that was a perfect 10, where are we at now, and how do we get closer?
One of the things I was talking about, and I go back to, which is the preparation, but also the one-on-ones. I think what it looks like is, and I'm just thinking direct care staff. This is not even taken into account clinical. Being able to make sure we're checking in and having one-on-ones with the kiddo. And it doesn't mean that we're having an hour meeting. It could be a 2-minute conversation.
Yep.
But what is that conversation about? It has to be about them. And, hey, how are we going to do X, Y, and Z? Are we, what's going on with your FAFSA? Did you already fill that out? Do you need help doing that? Things of that nature. I think it's going to look like that, and us having real conversations about their lives and not just, Johnny, you're not supposed to smoke.
Yeah.
Why is Johnny smoking?
Right.
Let's go really and talk to Johnny about what he could be doing.
Right.
Johnny might want to join the football team. But if you're not having those conversations, you're not going to find out.
Right.
And that's what I like to see more.
Yeah.
And I think it involves people in staff, support staff, clinical staff, talking to our kiddos and really getting into what they want and showing them that maybe therapeutically we're here to support you as you go through that, because it's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy, but we got your back.
Yeah. I think for me, like as a field, I'd say maybe we're at like a 4 or a 5. We're beginning to recognize, that there are better ways to do things, and we're starting to understand what those better ways are, and maybe even effective ways to implement those. But it's a big field, and it's hard. And as you've kind of addressed earlier, like there's a lot of staff turnover, right?
Yeah.
And so we're continually training new staff. And we still have a lot to do. I think as a project, conceptually, because we're still relatively, new, we're doing great. I think we have a lot of great ideas. In terms of like where we're at in getting to that 10, I think we're at like a 3 or a 4. I think there's still a lot of work that we can do.
Yeah.
Mind you, you came on the 29th.
Yeah, we're just getting started.
We're just getting started. But I think, it's important to recognize where we're at,
Right.
And then talk about like what that next step is. I think, we're going to be talking about like these sort of topics. We're going to be putting out social media posts that are educational. We're going to be putting out free training that'll be available 24/7. That'll generate a certificate for we're removing every barrier we can to ensure that this information is available, accessible, and that you and I are available to help agencies and individuals in treatment roles learn how to do this more effectively.
Right.
Because every agency is going to be in a different place, right?
Yeah.
Every county is going to be in a different place, right?
Yeah.
This is a statewide grant, and we're not trying to come in and say we're the experts. We're trying to come in and say, you've got some backup, you've got some support, we've got some ideas, and we're going to do everything we can to help you get there.
Yeah, how can we help?
I think that for me is why this is so important is because making that shift within the staff is what's going to make it possible for the staff to do that with the kids.
Yeah.
We can't ask the staff to do something for the kids that we can't do for them, right? We've got to prove that it's possible. We've got to demonstrate how to achieve it.
Yeah.
And then we've got to support them in making that happen as well. But, for you, why is this project so important? Why are the changes that we just spend a majority of our time talking about so important? Tell me why this matters.
I think it matters because we need to show our kids that they can attain these goals, that they do have a support system that's there behind them. A lot of times they don't know what it looks like. Sometimes they come from households that aren't supportive. And this is their first time even experiencing it. More productive ways of going about doing things that will end up being win-wins. Win for the kids, win for the program, win for the staff. And it builds on it, because even in the perfect world, we wouldn't get buy-in from, let's say, all 6 kids at a facility.
Right.
You might get one. And then you'll have the other kids complaining that this person gets all the benefits now. But they're not, they know he's doing the work, but they just think that he's the favorite now. But we definitely going to get more wins, and I think we'll end up getting more buy-in from the other kids because they're going to see examples of winning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think for me, like, this work is so important because it opens up a whole new possibility of what treatment can look like.
Yes.
Right? I doubt... I've never met a staff who loved to correct unsafe behavior.
Yeah.
I've met staff who were good at it.
Yeah.
But they didn't
Those
come
are two
in,
different things.
Right, those are two different things. But they didn't come into the work saying, like, I want to follow kids around all day and tell them, stop doing that, stop doing that, stop doing that. You have staff who are more effective at that, but that's never what drew them to the work.
Right.
And I think, finding a way to energize the staff in envisioning treatment differently and showing them that we can ask the same questions of the kids that we're asking of you, that we're asking of ourselves right now.
Right.
What if we asked an organization these same questions? What if we asked those kids these same questions? The same sort of excitement and energy that these questions and ideas and momentum that these questions create in us, we want that for these organizations. We want that for these staff. We want that for these kids. We want that for these systems.
Right.
Because that's the kind of thing that motivates and equips and sustains change. It's not directive. It's not coercive. We don't want to be, you don't want to be supervised by me that way.
Right.
We don't want the system to supervise the agencies that way.
Right.
The kids sure as hell don't want to be supervised that way.
Right.
So if we can all get on board working with each other, pursuing our goals, pursuing our dreams, pursuing those visions, I think that, one, that's a better, it feels better, and perhaps most importantly, it works better.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I'm excited to have had this conversation with you and to have many more, and also to continue putting together the training, to make this a possibility. Right. It's one thing to have the conversation. It's another to make it as likely to happen as we can.
Yeah.
And so we'll be continuing to put together training on, how to build your program in a way that just works. So we hope you continue to join us for these conversations. And we're just looking to make sure that we can help you simplify your residential program. And thank you for your time.